Okay, it's 9 o'clock, May 21st. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call will show that all commissioners are present today. The first item we have on our agenda, I believe, if I can open up the page correct, is
Public access warrant.
yeah, I think it's a public access warrant.
Or do you want to approve the, or do you want to approve the agenda?
Oh, well, you're right. We changed that. First of all, let's take Lee. Let's take a look at the agenda, commissioners. Are there things that anyone has question on, additions or deletions?
Did you take
Mike?
your,
No additions. Okay. All right. If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now let's move on to the public access forum. Okay. Anyone wishing to speak today at the public access forum? Anyone wishing to speak this morning? Last chance. Okay. If not, we'll move on to the next item. Consent agenda. Commissioners, you have before you items 1 through 14. Any things that would like to be removed?
I would like to,
Yep.
I'd like to pull number 8. I will need to abstain on that one. Involves a relative.
All right. Okay, Commissioner Mergen would like to pull number 8. With that, I'll look for a motion to approve 1 through 14 with the deletion of number 8.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Notch,
Second.
second Commissioner Mergen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Mergen.
Number 8, I'm going to have to abstain on
Okay.
because it involves a relative.
Okay. Then we're looking at the Planning Commission recommendation from Golden Tea.
I'll move approval of number 8.
Okay, Commissioner Clark.
Second.
Commissioner Notch, discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And abstain.
Okay. Now, next item we have is a public hearing. We have a public hearing on the rezoning on Joan Burrow's property. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We have a public hearing first, and then a couple of other items for you. Angie is here to go through the public hearing.
Good morning, Commissioners. The public hearing in front of you today is to consider a rezoning request submitted by Joan Burrow of Avon. The property is approximately 23 acres. The request is to rezone from agricultural 40 to residential 5. The property lies east of County Road 9 and south of 370th Street, just near the town site of St. Anna. The Stearns County Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this rezoning April 18th, 2019, and recommended denial of the request on a 4-3 vote. The Planning Commission established findings of fact which are laid out in your packet, starting on packet page 195. The Planning Commission found that the request does not conform to sustaining ag as a desirable land use, that it does not minimize land use conflicts between ag and other land uses, that it does not manage the growth and development of the county's rural character, and that the request does conform with the following goal and objective of the comprehensive plan: to sustain the current livability and diversity of Stearns County, and to encourage a diversity of housing opportunities meeting the needs of both cities and the townships. The Planning Commission found that the rezoning is both consistent and not consistent with the present and future land uses in the area. The property, as you can see on the map in front of you, is currently zoned A40, as is the surrounding property, with the exception of to the west is R5 and the RT is the St. Anna area. The Planning Commission also found that the LISA score was 71.75, which is above the non-conversion threshold of 65. The Planning Commission also found that the public health, safety, traffic generation impacts are minimal. However, impacts to neighboring farmland and farm operations may occur. Avon Township did recommend approval of the rezoning. And lastly, there was concern expressed by a neighbor about the impacts of additional homes on his ability to continue to farm. And other than that, we did receive 2 letters, which were submitted in your packet for the public hearing, and I'll just go through those right now. The first was from Roger Nelson, who is in support of the rezoning. He believes that the property is best suited for R5. Another letter in support was submitted by Joe and Barb Lang, and they are in support of the rezoning because there's other housing in the area. However, they would support it only if the driveway came from 370th Street, which is to the north, and if the homes were clustered as to preserve some native grasses. And again, lastly, not in support was the individual at the Planning Commission public hearing, Roger Panic, and he was concerned about the impact on his ability to farm. So the purpose of today's meeting is to conduct your public hearing. If you desire to concur with the Planning Commission and deny the rezoning, that's one option. Your other option is to approve the rezoning and enact ordinance number 587, and also then direct staff to come back with findings of fact to support your decision, and that would occur at your meeting on June 4th. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions before I open the public hearing? If not, I'll go ahead and I'll do that. I'll open the public hearing on the borough property. Anybody wishing to testify? When you come forward, just state your name and address and then give your testimony. Go ahead.
This is Andrew Ponick, Avon, Minnesota, 370th Street. We own and farm the land directly west of this borough property. We are continuously farming this land along with my son, who is a dairy farmer. There's many problems facing the farmer today, and now we're being saddled with another one by additional housing coming into the area. Now this area that you're talking about, there's many farms around there. Just a quarter-mile south, there's a huge dairy farm. They have robotic milkers. They're only a quarter-mile away. They farm a lot of land in the area. There's beef farmers just to the east. There's dairy and beef in the area. There's a lot of farming in the area. We would like to keep this area in agricultural, not housing. We have, when A40 was instituted, it was supposed to protect the farmer and the agricultural land by only having one house on 40 acres. Now it seems like they're changing this for anyone who wants to rezone it for housing. It seems like it's being changed, and the original purpose of this A40 was to protect the farmland. So it's not doing that anymore. Seems like anyone who just asked for it, it's being recommended and they're being allowed to do it. It isn't right that agriculture should be taking second place to housing projects. After all that the farmer does for the people of this United States, keeping them well fed at a reasonable price. People are going on summer vacation. Where's the farmer? He's in the field till after midnight. They've got their weekends off. Where's the farmer? He's in the barn at 5 a.m. in the morning milking cows, and it's 7 days a week. What consideration and respect does the farmer get for all this? Keeping everyone well fed at a reasonable price. It isn't right. It isn't right that I should be hit with high property taxes because I'm right next to another housing project. If this is allowed to be split up for housing, it sets off a chain reaction. There's other landowners in the area that are willing and waiting to do the same thing. There you've got the housing projects taking priority over agriculture. It should not be that way. If my son wants to put up a chicken barn on our property, he'll be denied by the Stearns County Board because there's too many houses in the area. There again, you've got housing projects taking priority over agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Panic. Anyone else wishing to testify this morning?
Good morning. Thank you for looking into my request. I'm Joan Burrow, address 36856 County Road 9, Avon. I'm doing this as a way for me to stay at the farm that I love. I grew up at the farm, and I've joined the community. I spent 25 years in Minneapolis and came back in 2000 to continue my life, the rural life I really do love, and I see this rezoning as an economic way for me to be able to stay longer in my home. I'm retired. That being as it is, I do respect the farmers and their hardships. I probably, through this plotting, would be removing 3 to 4 acres of the tillable land from production. There's only 8.5 acres right now, and most of that I would leave in crops. I've also thought about the Stearns County Comprehensive Plan that's being worked on right now, and if there are any other options that I might have with that going on, I'd be very interested in helping out or contributing my input in that. And also there's been something that's always kind of bothered me, and it is the law of the land, and I believe in that. When I split my farm and went down to 23 acres with only 8.5 acres of tilled land, I lost my agricultural designation. I'm zoned A40, but I'm paying residential taxes. And I always thought I'm falling through the cracks there. And I don't see the fairness in that, but of course, that's the way the laws are, or the rules are set. And if that could be changed for me, that would be a boost to go back. If I'm A40, I should be paying agricultural taxes, and I do as much agriculture as I can. Let's see what else. I'm just appreciative that you're looking into this again for me, and keep me posted on what's possible in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Burrows, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is your intent then, as far as the planning for the property then?
Oh, well, I would keep the majority of the farm together, and on the north side, on 370th Street, 74th, I would cluster a few houses on smaller lots, 3 acres, 2 acres, so as not to use up, and just have a bunch of lawn.
Okay. When you the word few is, could you be a little more specific than a few?
2 to 3 other lots, depending, and I wouldn't make them large, and keep the driveway off of that township road.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
right
right.
there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to testify? Go ahead, come forward and state your name.
My name is Richard Ponick. I live on 370th Street. I got beef cattle. My neighbor Andy We haul manure there and everything. When these residential houses come in, how far back do I gotta stay from residential? It's like 400 and some feet. Well, that's giving me a lot of property already where I ain't gonna be able to own or put manure on. I mean, I'm just saying, you guys went and put these houses up. You said she couldn't at one time. You changed the rules. Well, can't I change the rule and say I can spread my manure right up to residential? Isn't that kind of the same thing? I mean, I'm losing land, you're losing my livelihood for me. I mean, I'm just saying, let me farm the land and all the way up to the residential. All right, just, if you can change the rules, why can't I? That's what I got to say.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else wishing to testify?
Good morning. My name is Alan Dobus. My address is 38344 County Road 9, Avon, Minnesota, 56310. Mr. Linsmeyer, I don't know. I always get nervous coming up here, but when I see you, I kind of relax a little more because you've been around here a long time.
I was just about to remark, I haven't seen you forever, so I'm glad to find that tales of your demise have been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah. Good.
I stole that line from Mark Twain.
Nice to see you all again.
Typically, he scares people.
Well, when you know him, he's not that scary. But I do thank you this morning for giving me the opportunity to speak about this important issue to the dairy farmers or to farmers in general. And I'm speaking for the farmers because this is not only for the farmers, but this is for future food production or production for us as a nation. And I ask you as commissioners, how many times a day do you farm? And you say, I don't farm. You farm breakfast, dinner, and supper. So it's very important that we keep agriculture alive, especially in Stearns County, because Stearns County is the largest dairy county in the state of Minnesota. So it's a big deal. And for every dollar that dairy farmers generate, it's turned over 7 times. So it generates a lot of economic value for the county. And with this type of restructuring, it will have an impact on the farmers as far as taxes, land prices, more traffic. It just hinders the ability for farmers to continue to make the food that we do make here in the state, county, the nation, whatever else. According to the American Land Trust out of Washington, D.C., I know I gave this to Lee at one time, we lose 2 million acres of farmland each year. So that's 40,000 acres of land per state each year. That's a huge amount of land. Once the land is gone from agriculture, how are we going to get it back? We don't know what the future is going to bring for us. So it's really important that we look at this from the food production side for us as a nation, for us as a county. And I believe in houses. We need houses. We need customers to buy our food, whatever it is. But the houses need to be put where there's an infrastructure for them, for the curb and gutter, if you want to call it that. St. Anna does not have curb and gutter and those types of things for houses. Avon is looking to sell their lots that they own, the city of Avon. There's many places for people to put houses, but I understand why everybody wants to live out in the country. I really do. I get it. But I, as a farmer, cannot come and take over the Costco site that the city sold to Costco and put up a dairy barn there, because it does not work for me to farm in the city. Likewise, it does not work to put houses amongst us out in the rural farming communities. Maybe some years ago, when people grew up on farms and realized what it was all about, it worked better. But now there's too many generations removed. So with that, we need to look at that very seriously. Commissioners, if I bought land next to your house, I don't know where you all live, but if I bought land, a lot next to your house and put up a hog barn, how much value would that bring to your house? So this is a two-way street. You need to look at it both ways, and I'm sure you will. And when we continue to subdivide these or get rid of the ag land, it just encourages more and more people to do this to the land that's out there, because we don't realize the big picture of what's happening to the rural farm structure. Avon Hills is protecting the hills, so we have a scenic place in the county that is protected for its views. We have parks for people to enjoy their free time. You as a board support the Dairy Advisory Board, so why would we not support the Dairy Advisory Board and keep ag land? Because it's not for a scenic view, it's not for recreation, it's for food production to sustain our lives. So it's really important in that aspect of preserving this ag land. And this is not just for us today. This is for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. This is for the future, that we are guardians of the land. If you really have to divide this land up, why don't you make the people that are wanting to put mini houses on their land buy building rights from the farmers that have the building rights? So then maybe the farmers can get a little money out of this, because in this type of, it's a one-way street. So we are making the farmer carry the whole load. There is no incentive for the farmers involved. Maybe we should make these people have the building rights in place, bought from different farmers that, yep, I can do this, and transfer them to these places, and then they've got some skin involved versus you giving them all the building rights and you giving them that value that it will enhance this land, whoever it is. So you really are giving them maybe $100,000. That depends how many houses are being put on this land. So that just an idea on that. And the last thing that I'd like to say is, I know these people that are here today, they're friends and neighbors. Maybe they wouldn't call me a friend now with what I said. Maybe not even a neighbor, but they're acquaintance. So this is not a personal attack. This is for the community of agriculture and for generations to come. And with that, I do thank you from the bottom of my heart with this time to speak with you this morning.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Dobas, can I just ask, so what's your take then when farmers build a second home on the farm sites?
I understand. And I've done that. My brother and I built the second home. We farmed that land together. And I'm hoping that I can sell that to my grandson and that he can farm that farm with his father or whatever. I lost the train of thought, but it still was in agriculture production. If I had to do it over again, especially with my parents, I would recommend my parents to go to town, because the next generation of farmers, for example, my dad used 2-cylinder John Deeres and I used the 6-cylinder John Deere. So we have different ideas and different ways of looking at things. So there's that clash of the minds. So I would recommend my parents to go to town. But you know, when your parents are helping you at farming, getting started, it's a different story. Because there's more than one way to skin a cat, and it doesn't have to be my way. And I realized that with my son coming into the farming business. So we have to release that desire to control everything till the grave, and then it's too late. So I understand about farming, building a house for the old generation or whatever, but we need to look at preserving ag land for the future. And if we take out 2 acres or 5 acres or 20 acres, how are we going to keep this ag land productive, or young farmers the ability to come through the system? So it's very important for us as a tribe, if you want to call it that, for future generations to keep it ag land as much as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, because that's been my concern for years, even when I was on the township board. You know, because at some point, the next generation is not going to be around for that home, so that home's going to get sold off to somebody else, and, you know, in effect, kind of create the same issue we're talking about now.
I've seen that with different farmers. The father sold the farm to the son, and then he built the house on the corner of the farm, and then the father or parents died, and then that house was resold, because now what are we going to do with it? Then there was issues with vandalism and trash and other issues. I get it. I understand it. My recommendation would be for mom and dad to go to town. That would be the best place for everybody involved. Does it happen that way? Is it mean? I don't know. But
And how many mom and dads do we have coming up to the podium?
so if there is no other questions, I really do thank you for your time and your questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Al does remind me that we have had discussions at length on transferable development rights, but maybe in the grand scope of things, we might want to look at it again. I don't know if better for worse, but that chat has happened here.
Okay. Anyone else wanting to testify? Anyone else wanting to testify on the rezoning? Last chance. If not, okay, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, we have a classic example of rezoning and of development versus preservation. First of all, I'd like to say, you folks that testified today, I guess I'd like to see your input on the comprehensive plan, because that's exactly what we're looking at, is what are we going to do about the future? What are we going to do about the ag land? What do we want to do about our development areas? And we need to come to grips with that so we get a policy that most people can agree with. And so I appreciate your testimony today. And so, yeah, we're stuck with the classic double-edged sword of, do we let development continue, or do we put a hold on it and keep things as they are? Commissioner Notch.
Just a quick question for staff. I noticed there's a residential dwelling to the east of that property. Can you just maybe for the record state what the setbacks are for spreading manure?
I don't know off the top of my head what the setbacks are. I thought it was 50 feet for spreading.
Okay. Are there questions, concerns? Well, the Planning Commission struggled with this. If we take a look at the map in front of us, you know, we see the small parcels developing along County Road 9, and then you look at Pelican Lake and you see all the lots that are along that between residential and perhaps seasonal cabins. The township recommended that we allow this to happen. I guess my biggest concern is what's the future for the township? What's the future for St. Anna? What is it that they would like it to see in the future? Because as lives change, we had Mr. Panic, Panic say that he wants to continue to farm that, and his son would like to continue to farm that too. But lives do change, and how soon before they would like to go ahead and develop that as well. A good number of issues sitting here before us, but we have a decision to make.
Well, this is something that is almost a classic argument. On one hand, you've got the property owner that now wants to sell for development. On the other hand, you got the neighbors, and they're staying there. And the use change, they can justifiably see that it conflicts with what they're doing. And so This isn't a new argument. The faces are new, but the argument isn't. So I don't have any wisdom or lack of therein to share with you. I do know that there are, as the point was made, there are available residential lots in the area. So in that respect, we're not holding up residential development. So it all depends where you're at philosophically.
Other comments? Commissioner Nod?
Well, I was just going to say, you can make arguments both ways.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, if you look to the north across the street, you have non-ag properties. You look to the kind of northwest, you got the city. This parcel versus moving it further to the east and somebody putting a home on the 40-acre tract, this, if any parcel in the country would probably make more sense to have something like this, but, again, it's a tough decision. You respect the rights of property owners to do what they want with their property, but you also like to respect the neighborhood and not infringe on anybody's right to use their property either. So, like Lee said, it's a classic example of
And
it's good and bad.
right, and a question, what is the neighborhood? Is the neighborhood rural residential? Is that the neighborhood, or is the neighborhood farming? Or, we're at a transitional area. And then also, I guess my concern is, this is perhaps a classic case that's going to determine which way we go in the future. Because we're going to have other people that are going to come to us and say, gosh, I'd like to split this up. I'd like to have some rural development, small parcels. And what are we going to say? What makes theirs any different than what we have in front of us? Commissioner Lance?
Normally, this would be a tougher decision. It's a little bit easier right now because we are in the process of relooking our comp plan, and so as a result, if you wanted to punt on this, we could suggest that this get delayed until we're done with that process, which will take a while, but, if we could deny the use of a proposed storage unit in a lakes area that had non-competing uses on three sides, justifying delay on this, or until after we're done with the comp plan would make more sense. So if you want to follow that line of logic, there it is for you to jump on.
I just want to say, too, I'm struggling with this one, as to which way to go, because it is contiguous pretty much to St. Anna.
Mr. Chair, per Commissioner Lenzmeyer's comments, as we all know, we're working on our comprehensive plan, and one of the steps that we're going to be going through is working with townships on if they want to change their growth plan. So, for example, do they want to see St. Anna grow, if you will, in this direction or somewhere else? I would hesitate to continue this item until the comprehensive plan is done, because we're going to have a lot of rezonings between now and when we're done. And I think that would be a bit of a process and tracking issue, but it would be certainly one of your options to kick it out until the future. And Ms. Burrow is here today. Shelley, I know, has talked to her about that. It may not be the time now. Maybe it would be later, depending on where the township comes at on their growth plan.
I don't have anything against the basic idea, but the bottom line for me is that I wouldn't support continuing this. I'd support denying this, and to inform the petitioner that here's why. We're taking a new look at what our near future reality is, and that this plan can go forward depending upon the outcome of that in the relatively near future. Now, I've been in the real estate business myself, and the relatively near future is like tomorrow. But in reality for this panel, it's like 18 to 24 months. So if you're looking for a justification to deny. It's that we want to wait until we take a look at what we want Stearns County to be when we grow up.
Second motion?
I can make that.
Could you clarify the motion, Lee, please?
Denial.
Okay. And bring it back after,
Well, no,
Well,
denial
no.
would be denial,
Yeah,
correct?
just denial, flat denial, and they can bring it back after we update the comprehensive plan. This may be entirely appropriate, in a couple of, a year or two when we got this done. And, but right now, because we're in this particular state of looking at that, I'm more comfortable denying it now under the circumstance than I would be when we know what we want for a vision down the line.
Okay. Now, it's scary for me to ask what you're thinking, but I'm going to do that. Because then what about the plans that come before us between now and the comprehensive plan being completed? Are you saying that this is specifically different than those, or that this is what we want to see for future plans coming as well towards us?
All the above,
Yeah.
just, this is, we're in an unusual period, and the outcome of that comp plan update is going to create opportunities and prevent other things from happening in the near future. So the timing on this, from a regulatory standpoint, and that's what we are, is unfortunate, but it isn't like it's denial forever. I could fully see this coming up again in maybe even 18 months.
Okay. So we have a motion to deny?
That's it.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. Now, discussion? Commissioner Clark?
I also want to say, I think this is a really hard one. But for where we are with the process with our plan, I think we might even be wrestling a bit more. That is why we're updating it, is to have a better idea. I don't know whether there will be other properties that will come before the Planning Commission that will be a simpler one, and those should go forward. But otherwise, I think what Commissioner Lenzmeyer is saying is something that's actually very prudent from our planning standpoint.
I know, too, part of the planning commission's denial here had to do something with the order that the township did things in. So,
Yeah, that was talked about, Commissioner Mergen. And that's one question I was going to ask staff, as far as, being visionary, as far as the people or the order around St. Anna, how incorporated is that? How organized are they? How futuristic are they? Same thing with the township. What is their plan for the area? Do we have any idea? Do they have a future plan?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the township has a comprehensive plan map for this area. St. Anna is not a municipality, it's a rural town site, meaning it's like St. Anthony and Marty and all of those other small towns that are not cities.
Unincorporated, yeah.
Yeah, that are unincorporated. So as we go through the comp plan process, that's when we'll reach out to Avon Township and ask them, what is your plan for this particular area? And I think it's going to be obvious that they're going to want to look at St. Anna because of this rezoning request in particular, because they did support it. So they're going to want to look at that and hopefully reach out to the residents of their township at their meetings to get input from all the different sides.
Yeah. If we were looking at this parcel, 2 miles away, a mile and a half or 5 miles away, we'd consider it spot zoning and we would deny it. I think that would be very simple. But again, you take a look at what you have around there, and it does very much, I think, fit the area. It's a tough one, and I'm not in here at this position to make friends. It seems that with our decision, we lose more than anything else, so.
I forgot to check. How far are we from municipal services?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lenzmeyer, it would be Avon miles, 5 miles? How far are we from Avon? I'm not sure, but
Okay.
it's a ways.
it's a ways.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay. I believe we'll probably be seeing more on this in the
Oh,
future.
yeah.
Okay. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of denial, say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous denial of the issue.
Mr. Chair, the next item that we have for you is a hazardous property removal, and Mark Lateral is here to go through that with you.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As Shelley indicated, the next item is a request of the board to authorize repair or removal of hazardous property as ordered in the attached abatement. The City of Belgrade did make a request for assistance of the county to abate hazardous buildings located in the Rooney's, Rooney's Manufactured Home Park North within the City of Belgrade. Both city officials and the county staff have tried to work to address these issues with the park owner in a voluntary and a licensing manner over the past few years. The park representatives have made varied levels of compliance over that time. At this time, there are 3 manufactured homes within the park that need corrective action or to be removed as expressed in the attached order. With me this morning is John Tracy. He's one of our registered sanitarians and the inspector for the park. He has worked with the Rooney family most closely with this situation. So if there's specific questions, I would defer them to John. And also I want to acknowledge Russell Rooney is in the crowd this morning or in attendance. So if there's questions from the board for him, he would be receptive to answering those. So, Mr. Chair, I turn this back to you for discussion and consideration of authorizing the abatement order.
Okay. Staff, any questions, or board, any questions for them? I guess not. This is not pretty stuff to deal with, but things we have to deal with, so. With that, you're looking for a motion?
Yes, I'm requesting the county board authorize the chair to sign the attached abatement order and join the City of Belgrade in a joint abatement effort in this manner.
Okay,
I'll move the recommendation.
okay. We got a motion
I'll second it.
and a second? Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, I'll call the question. And all those in favor in the abatement order, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, John.
Mr. Chair, the next item is E2, packet page 285, information regarding the Tri-County contract. So there was a Tri-County meeting on Thursday. 4 of the 5 board members were at that meeting, and staff is looking to put together a meeting to discuss potential negotiation terms with Pope Douglas and looking at the waste allocation agreement with Jerry Von Korf, who is the attorney from Tri-County. So if you have any questions, I just want to make sure everybody on the board was aware of that. And, pardon me, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Clark will be our representative, and Lisa Phoebe is a representative from Sherburne, and Jake Bowerly will be the representative from Benton County.
Okay.
I would like you to, when you have that meeting and you're setting this up, I would like you to look at possibly carving out something to help protect our local businesses. Maybe something dealing with a certain amount, or I don't know, I'm pulling this out of the air, 20,000 tons delivered or something. It only applies to those businesses that have over a certain amount of capability or tonnage delivered. Something that will protect the local businesses, because I really fear that they will be gone.
Another concept we talked about that, because Commissioner Notch wasn't at that meeting, was do we do some type of a schedule again with some kind of clause that would if there are additional costs, that Pope Douglas could come back to Tri-County Solid Waste. I certainly heard, concern about our local businesses, concern about predictability also of what the costs are. If there was something that was going to be more major, something that we could be able to say, look, it's not just the full 4%. It's, I think for a number of us that we've got concerns about that too. And that impacts the local haulers as well.
Commissioner Nudge?
I'm assuming this would all be vetted and come back, for agreement, so.
That's correct.
Yes.
It's going to go to the task force, and then come back to us. And then, and for your sake of background, the other two counties are pretty much allowing us to be the shakers and movers on this. We're the body of the dog, and they're just the appendages. So it's going to be more or less our decision as far as which way we want to go with that. In response to Commissioner Clark's and Commissioner Mergen's response, I'm concerned about the fees and the future of those as well, and some way about having some management and control. The idea, which to me, of the request of having 4% of additional perhaps charges the next 2 years, and then on the additional 5 years on the extension of the contract, does not leave much room for us to say no, or we don't want that. And that also, for them, as far as predictability, says, well, we can spend up to this much. And boy, if I give my children an allowance and say you can spend up to this much, I can pretty much know what I'm going to get out of that. And with that being said, I appreciate Commissioner Clark saying that if they want additional, that they would come back to us. And so I just spinning numbers in my head, I guess with the present agreement for 2 years, in my opinion, I think if we would, is it presently at 4%? Is that where we are now?
Up to 4%
Up to 4
annually.
Yeah, for 4% annually. I guess I would be okay if we want to make this relatively simple, which in my mind things aren't simple, but we can attempt that. Is to go with a proposal of, let's say, the 4% on the next 2 years of the agreement that we presently have in place, and the next 5 years a maximum of 2% increase. But if they have and they can justify the need for increases, they would have to come to us and justify those increases. We're not putting a freeze on it. We're giving them some wiggle room as far as what to plan. If they have additional tonnage, that would also increase their revenues as well. So to make things simple, that's kind of where I am at, and those would be the parameters I could live with.
I think it was a maximum of 4%. It isn't an automatic of 4%,
Correct.
but we'll just see where it goes. My big picture concern is, to the extent possible, and probably sound like a broken record, the 50-50 split between landfill and burners. And we're that's an ideal, but definitely keep the burn option in play. And they're looking for long-term certainty. Well, the one fellow that now is that runs that shop is a recovering GRE employee and has been through the mill. Using the dog analogy, the reality is Sherburne County is really the ears of the dog, because they just want to be kept apprised of where the other two counties are at. So that's all I got for you.
Mr. Chair, this won't be part of this particular meeting or conversation, but the, kind of the third part of all of this that I know has been a goal for Tri-County for a long time is waste reduction. And, when I think about those tonnage and how does that impact everybody too? So it's kind of that initial piece of what is being done to reduce that. And then I think Commissioner Lensberg, part of what you're talking about is what are we doing with the remaining waste and what that split is.
I too can very much support that 50-50 as kind of the vision or the plan for where we want to be. I was pleased to see, MPCA at our meeting this past week. Unfortunately, a little bit too late, and their ears being opened a little bit too late. I would like to see us maybe continuing to have a dialogue with them, and I'd like to see them maybe having a broader base of dialogue. Our issue is not unique. We're one of 87 counties, and so there's waste in all of those, and we need to have a bigger picture, bigger plan. And to Commissioner Clark's point, the whole idea of reducing waste and the recycling, and the ag plastic, we're all in this together. And I've mentioned a number of times about the future of landfills. We can't ignore our need for landfills, not that we want to put waste there, but we're always going to have some amount that's going to end up there, whether it's, the ash or the things that can't be disposed of. So, and I hate to see a monopoly established by private corporations to hold us hostage at those landfills. Commissioner Nutter.
And I would anticipate through these discussions that they would bring this to Tri-County Solid Waste before they would automatically implement a 1%, 2%, 3%, 4% annual increase. I would hope that would be a part of the agreement.
Right, and Commissioner Knox, that's why I guess I'd like to have the automatic at 2. In other words, that shows that we're gonna honor that. But if they do have the issues in which they're it's sink or swim, that they would bring it to us, and then we could let them either sink or swim.
Right, because without them as an alternative, I mean, what do you have left? 100% landfill.
Right. Right.
And Mr. Chair, that's obviously not where this board is at.
No.
Nor, I think, is the state at. I think one of the things maybe in preparation for that meeting would be for, if they're willing to, for Pope Douglas to have, let us know. I mean, they've told us what they believe, where their costs are going, but I don't think we've got a good sense of what that really means. So if 2% is not feasible, it'd be good, and I'm not saying that's a neutral comment, but is there something bigger coming up that we don't know about? So, certainty, it seemed like the first few years of this contract had specified increases. So the board, Tri-County Board, our county boards, everybody had said, yep, and then there was this other piece after it. We also know we're in a changing environment. Pope Douglas clearly needs to have, as well as the haulers, as well as our constituents, need to have some predictability. We also heard we don't know if and when GRE will ever come back or if there's something else. So, clearly that would take a while to figure out anyways. So the timeline of this contract, what their extension request is, I don't think we heard anything that says that timeline is too long. But that's the other thing I think might be helpful for us prior to that meeting. Is there something else out there? But that predictability, and for us to at least have, yep, this is what we can anticipate, this is what we know we're signing off on.
Commissioner Clark, to that point, that's why I think the 4%, and in 5 years of 2% gives them an idea of what their potential is, and so they know the parameters by which they're going to have to work with.
And Mr. Chair, clearly, that's the current contract, so we don't have a choice besides what that says right now, unless they agree to something. I heard a couple of other members of that board talk about 3%. I don't know what the right number is. I mean, personally, if we could keep it at 2%, I think that'd be great. But if there is something out there that we're not, the 5 of us are not aware of right now, it'd be nice to know what that is. Because I know they were talking about their bonds, among other things.
Right. Correct.
So, Mr. Chair, I think I'm with you in spirit. I would just hate to come back and say.
See what the true numbers are.
Right, right.
If there are true numbers.
Yeah, if there are, right.
Anyone else?
Enough, Mark?
Have I? I've got one more thing for you.
Sure.
It's a different matter, so I'll let you finish this first.
Okay.
This is helpful.
Yep. Commissioner Clark's going to be taking us back. Board members, anything else on the issue? Okay.
If you think of anything else, please let me know.
Mr. Chair, I did speak with Tim Oswald, and he asked me just to give a brief egg plastic update. The trucks were on the road yesterday, 21 stops, 21 tons of plastic picked up. So it is happening. So he just wanted to let you know. So.
And because of next week, the holiday being on Monday, they're going to pick up on Wednesday. So if people are worried, they are still doing it. They're just picking that up on Wednesday instead of Monday.
It's
But
a little
they're
slower than
just-
anticipated because of the volume each
It's just a lot
collecting.
of plastic
So,
picked
Oh, boy.
up, which is good.
so.
So that's
Let's
all
keep
we-
working on that.
That's
Yeah,
all we
yeah.
have.
That's great.
Unless you have anything for me.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Next item we have on the agenda is Public Works. Jody Teig.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Jody. Glad to see you survived the road trip.
And thank you. Thank you. It was a good road tour.
It was.
My first item today is on page 286 in your board packets. I'm asking the board to authorize advertising for bids for SP 073-070-022. I discussed this briefly at our road program public meeting. These are traffic signal confirmation lights along portions of County Road 75 and Trunk Highway 15 where it intersects with county roads. I'm asking the board to approve a bid opening date of June 13th, 2019. This is a project we've worked closely with law enforcement, including the County Sheriff's Office and the police departments in St. Joseph, Waite Park, and St. Cloud and Sartell. This contract will be 90% funded with Highway Safety Improvement Program funding. So I am asking the board to approve that bid opening date.
Okay, a motion to approve that. Commissioner Clark. Second, Commissioner Lenzmeyer. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
For my next item on page 288 in your agenda packets, I'm asking the board to adopt a resolution removing state aid designation from County State Aid Highway 74 between 33rd Street South and County State Aid Highway 137. And then this resolution includes language to turn said section of County Road 74 back to the city of St. Cloud. This is at the request of the city. They feel this corridor will serve a city function much more with direct accesses to all future businesses along there. And so the resolution that you have covers both removing that state aid designation and then the city turning that section back to the city. Once the city adopts a resolution concurring with this, because we need that since it is a state aid section, and then forwards that to us, we would make a lump sum payment to the city for taking that back, and that amount was included in our 2019 road program budget.
Okay, questions on that? If not, I'll look for a motion to turn back County Highway 74 to the city of St. Cloud.
I'll move that.
Commissioner Clark, second Commissioner Mergen. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
For my next item, I am asking the board to set a public hearing date of June 25th, 2019, related to the local option transportation sales tax. We, in 2018, collected just a hair over $6 million. We originally estimated about $4.6 million annually from that 0.25% sales tax. The board has a couple of options, of course. They can certainly shorten the amount of time we collect that sales tax. What I am requesting the board to do is consider adding some projects that are funded with that transportation sales tax. One such project would be in 2020, and it would be a roundabout at County Road 138 and 28th Avenue, just north of our office. This is something the city of Waite Park strongly supports, and they would be paying for half of that, of course. Included in your packets is a draft road program, 2020 through 2024. Any changes in that sales tax from the county board's original resolution are highlighted in yellow. In order to accomplish this, we do have to go through a public hearing process and then resubmit that revised list of projects to the Department of Revenue, because the list of projects was submitted when the board initially adopted this sales tax.
Okay. I have a question on that, Jody. So then we would have exhausted the dollar amount on the projects that we had anticipated beforehand? Or are we also maybe making just an adoption or a change on perhaps a priority as well?
We are increasing the amount that we're spending per year to get up to that $6 million in revenue. And included in those costs, or those expenditures, are right-of-way costs, engineering costs, any legal fees associated with it. So in the program, you're seeing primarily construction costs. So it's going to be slightly short of that overall $30 million when you look at 2018 through 2022. But we do have behind the scenes the engineering costs, and we've got those all tracked. You'll see that in our annual report after we have 1 year of collections and expenditures that you'll see at your next board meeting. But this does not extend the timeline of the sales tax. It's still set to sunset on December 31st of 2022, It's just capturing those additional revenues with added projects.
Okay.
I'll move the recommended action of setting the public hearing for June 25th.
Okay, motion?
A second.
And a second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I do have one miscellaneous item, and I apologize that this did not get on the agenda. We opened bids last Thursday, May 16th, for CP 004-019-092, and that's the roundabout located at the intersection of County Roads 4 and 120. Knife River Corporation was the low bid. They were 4.77% over estimate with a bid of $1,055,652.76. This contract, if awarded, would begin early to mid-July, so I know there were some concerns with it overlapping significantly with the County Road 75 work, so we pushed this back to accommodate the building removal in this location that's required, and then also to make sure that we have time for the court action to have our quick take on the properties that we have not settled with yet for right-of-way. This project would take a full 3 months, but I'm asking the board to award this contract to Knife River Corporation. This project, as a side note, is a sales tax funded project in the original county board resolution, and it was programmed in 2019 in our road program.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that.
A motion? Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Lenzmeyer, second with the nod of your head? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just one quick question. Jody, again, back up. Will then this project shut down 120 and 4 after 75 opens?
There may be a very brief overlap, but it'll be
Very
minimal.
brief.
Very brief.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure I know yet. What is the definition of very brief? Do we know what that means?
That
Do we mean
depends
2
on
days,
weather.
1 day, a week?
Couple of weeks.
Somebody
Okay.
messing up the
Yeah.
road?
Yeah,
Generally, when I say very brief, it would be a couple of weeks.
Okay,
okay,
thank
And
you.
also
Thank you for that clarification.
predict the weather.
yeah.
Correct. But it sounds like you're anticipating the couple of weeks would
There
most
will be
include
some
that.
overlap.
Okay, nope, that's good.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
That's all I have, unless anyone has anything for me.
Maybe I should go on a road tour. Where are the gravel roads that left that are still in our system?
We have one in the St. Cloud District, County Road 138 within the city of Rockville. It's a short segment. We have, there's about 50 miles in the western half of the county, spread throughout.
Okay, are there any candidates for turnbacks in that?
There are, and we've got some included in our road program where we would do potentially some improvements. Generally, we look at whether or not they serve a county function, and just because it's lower traffic doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't serve a county function. So we look at those on a case-by-case basis. And another example, we have townships that they have no pavement on their system, so they would never want us to turn a paved road back to them, as kind of on the flip side. So we kind of weigh that and we look at them on a case-by-case basis. There are a whole list identified in our long-term transportation plan, but we work with those townships road by road.
Jody, is it always cost-effective for us to do the maintenance and, let's say, the snow removal on those as far as having the township share any of that, or do we take care of all that ourselves?
We take care of that ourselves. We do have agreements within municipalities for quite a few lane miles of road, but we do not have any cost share maintenance agreements with townships at this point.
Okay, all right. Anything else? If not, first of all, in jest, I want to say that the road trip was quite impressive in that we saw a lot of miles of rough road, and it helps us get a vision about what's going on in the county, and I want to say I appreciate that being done. You know, those are big dollars that we're spending, but also we can see the need out there as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
What, break time? Okay. With that, commissioners, we have the auditors and treasurers coming, but we have a break after that, but can we break right now? Let's do that. We'll take a 5-minute break and we'll be back. All right?
Wisdom to do that.
Okay, we're back to item G on the agenda, Auditor Treasurer.
I have with me today Chad Martini, the Land Management Division Director, and Steve Holthouse, the Land Record Supervisor, and we're going to do an update and information on the tax forfeiture. With that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, just a brief update as far as where we're at from the crash back in the mid-2000s as far as our tax forfeited parcel count here. You can see we're at the high points there in 2012, 2013, those years of 420 parcels, where it's finally come back down to normal. Last year we had 21 parcels that have tax forfeited. With approximately a little bit over 1,100 parcels being forfeited in the last 8 years, we're down to 82 parcels in our inventory. So we continue to have progress in our sales, and we done some different marketing techniques to try and get those sold. Our primary areas left are Cold Spring, Albany, Avon, and St. Cloud, and then we have some ones and twosies out in the western part of the county. One of the things that we implemented 5-6 years ago is a monthly delinquent payment plan. We currently have 118 taxpayers on this plan, which is just an ACH plan, accumulating $31,300 a month approximately. We found that this works best with the taxpayers. The original COJs were one installment at the end of the year, which was usually just a large amount and bad timing as far as with the holidays, and they found it difficult to make that payment.
Just a quick question, is that amount, does that cover interest and penalty, or are they making any progress on the whole thing? Or?
Yeah, and actually what we do is it does include the penalty and interest, Mr. Chair. And we try and get them, the state plans are 9 to 10 years for your residential plans, I should say they're 10. But this one, we try and get them to pay this off in 3 to 5 to get them back on track, and it's been quite successful. We have 2 or 3 a year probably that are not able to follow through with what was agreed upon, but for us, it's a good plan.
Okay, good.
Just a brief update on some of our projects last year. City of Bruton. This was our most expensive project cleanup. Went over $100,000 with chemicals and everything that was stored inside. So just to show you a couple of images here. A few other structures that we did do. I think we did a total of 5 property cleanups. Belgrade area. Paynesville City, where we just cleaned out the house. We ended up selling the residential home though, on that property. We have a little debris left on an industrial lot in Way Park City, and 2 homes that were tore down in the city of Sauk Center. Projected for 2019, we have 41 parcels currently in our inventory that we are currently serving on. What we're seeing is a trend with structures versus the vacant land that we had in the past. We have currently 3 farms, 26 residential homes, a couple of seasonal rec properties, and 10 vacant land lot type properties.
So the trend we're starting to see is less properties forfeiting each year, but the per property costs dramatically going up because of structures, cleanups. We're not getting the best of the best. And so although the numbers are fewer, the costs typically are going up. That is a trend that is probably not going to be reversed.
So when we try and get ahead of the game a little bit by reviewing some of these properties earlier now. So we've gone around to see where the vacancies are. Snowfall is always a good indicator, right? So a few of the homes that we've found here in St. Joe, St. Cloud, some vacancies that we'll be dealing with. We don't know what they're like inside yet, but we're projecting some costs associated with these. Here's just a recap on our revenue and expenses, where you can see our trends of our expenses going up for 2018 and our revenue going down with all our lot sales. Here are our 2018 expenses. You'll see the one that sticks out there as far as our professional contractual. Those were our property cleanups, those costs associated with that. And a revenue of $612,000.
Can you flip it back? Can you differentiate between the labor costs and the professional contractual? I gotta believe there's some labor in there.
Yeah, the labor costs are our costs associated with it.
Staff time.
Staff time.
Oh, internal?
Yes.
Oh, good, you're including that.
Which would also.
Yeah, back in the day, that was a point of discussion. So I'm glad you're doing it.
And just a reminder of how the distribution works by state statute. Our administrative expenses are taken off first, off the revenue generated last year. Special assessments levied against the tax bills. Future special assessments, county parks 20%, and the remainder to be divided out between the county, city, and school. So with review of that, we are looking for a motion to approve the distribution of the forfeited funds today and a recommendation to withhold an additional $50,000 to retain a balance of $250,000 for anticipated property cleanups for the future with our revenue decreasing.
Okay. Motion to provide that distribution and cleanup?
I'll move that.
I'll move that.
Okay, second.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer, second Commissioner Mergen. Any more discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
My next item is the proposed personnel policy change, and this relates to the late submittals, the ones over 90 days that were coming to the county board. So we researched this issue and talked to a tax attorney and have an option for you to consider. First of all, we're working under an accountable plan. So accountable plan has some requirements to keep it a tax-free payment to reimburse expenses. First, it has to be substantiated with receipts, and it also has to be timely. And 90 days works if you pay it within the 90 days, but it can only be rarely over 90 days, and I think we've been doing a little bit more than we should over the 90 days. Going to the county board does not necessarily help us. If it keeps it under 90 days, that's fine, but in and of itself, that's not doesn't help you meet the law. So the new policy that's for your consideration is submittals need to go do not need to go to the county board. Reimbursements need to be within the 90 days with some exceptions for some extenuating circumstances. So if there's any questions, that's what we're looking for today.
Mr. Chair and Randy, I thought one of the things that was good in here is it reinforces to the employee that will be considered to be taxable.
Right.
Otherwise, it'll get paid, but it'll be taxable, and that would seem like it should deal also with some of the challenges that your office can face with dealing with closeouts of year-end, among other things.
Yeah. So it will save some time, obviously, not bringing it to the county board. But doing a taxable distribution does take us more time. Right? We have to run it through payroll. There is a little bit of cost for Stearns County on the their side of the employment taxes, but I think it's rather minimal, and hopefully, right, this number is very low. So.
I would think that to some extent that it gives employees with some substantial reimbursements that are outstanding a reason to get them in, unless they have a very good reason. Right now, they may not have that. And again, I appreciate the challenges sometimes that go with that, but.
It's gotten better. I mean, it's since we brought it to the board, the number has gone down, but I think this is still a better policy than what we've been operating under. So.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Clark,
Second.
second Commissioner Morgan. Just one quick question. Have we heard any response to this from staff or from employees? Anything?
I did send it to Human Services, Melissa and Anit up there, and talked to them about it. They were very positive and appreciative of the change also. So.
Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Next item we have will be from administration. We're getting close to the end here, but we have maybe a lengthy one here. I don't know. We'll see how long it takes. Presenting, Mike, are you presenting that?
I'll introduce it, but Mr. Wires will
Okay.
present his report to you. After we were successful in getting special legislation to make our recorder position appointed rather than elected, the board adopted a resolution that directed me to bring back recommendations mid-year this year on how we might restructure if there's some better way to structure because of that opportunity we have now. And at the same time, we were working on budgets, and we had some personnel requested in the auditor treasurer areas. And about at the same time, we also were adopting that policy that provided guidance to a board policy on how we do these staffing and best practices studies. So at that time, then we expanded the study so that we would look at some areas in the auditor treasurer's office, and of course I worked with Randy on that, and of course then the recorder's office too. And so we employed Mr. Wires, and he in turn engaged a partner to conduct the study of these areas. And so Gary's here to make that presentation, to present his recommendation or his findings, and then what's being asked of the board is to hopefully approve the structure that he's recommended, and so we can go about moving towards that. Now, it might take time for us to fully get to that final structure because of a number of reasons, and I think Gary might mention some of those, but I think we can just turn it over to Gary and let him give his presentation.
All right, Gary, with that? Please.
Yeah, this isn't a public hearing, but there are private sector people here today that live and breathe this stuff every day, so would it be appropriate to you or the balance of the board here to see if there's commentary after he's done with his presentation?
Board members?
I'm fine.
Okay, I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity to work with you on this project. You probably remember a few years ago I was here doing some work in the human services arena at that time. This particular study was commissioned in September of last year, 2018. The scope covered elections, license centers, treasurer and recorder's office, and one of the reasons we started that early in the fall was to be able to work on the elections part of the project during an election. So that was very helpful to us, both Patty O'Connor and I, who conducted the study. So what we did as part of the study was review documents, budgets, other organizational charts, et cetera. We did interviews of almost 50 people, mostly county employees, as part of that study, and then look at other county structures, similar sized counties, similar situated counties, et cetera. I am a consultant now for the last 6 years. I do search work for cities and counties for administrator positions, and then also organizational work like this. Patty O'Connor worked in Blue Earth County for many years and assisted with this project. So a couple of things I just want to say initially. I'm always happy to come to Stearns County because the one thing that I always see here is there's very much a customer service focus, and throughout the course of this study, people were really committed to that, and you don't really see that everywhere you go or everywhere I go in looking at government structures. So, I think that is a tremendous asset that you have here. Quality people throughout as well, good leadership. Again, I have a lot of positives to comment on. The culture is positive. People view their work positively. They understand their work. And that's all, those are all pluses. You know, a few things that I would also point out is that, and this is probably no surprise to you, but I believe that staffing is very lean here. I mean, you're a very lean organization, which is good. You should be a lean organization. But that has also, as you'll see, or you've probably already seen in the report, I am recommending a few additional staff as well as a subtraction of one staff as well. I do think that, I said in the report, your county website was a state-of-the-art 10 years ago, and I'm not sure it is anymore, and I think there's some room for improvement in how information is presented to the public, and particularly in regards to, and you'll see this or saw it in the report as well, in regards to your license centers and kind of getting people who have license center questions to the area of your site that they need to get to. So I think there's some room for improvement there as well. But again, I just felt like there was a lot of positives in this organization, a lot of positives with the people that you have employed to carry out their work. So I'll move into the recommendations sections. The first is regarding elections. It's amazing to me that every year there's new requirements on your staff. Every year there's changes to, in many cases, software systems or hardware or voting machines. I mean, the list goes on, and you're in a constant state, you and everyone else are in a constant state of reacting to that. And I think that your staff do a phenomenal job with handling the elections, and Patty O'Connor, who has more specialization in elections than I do, feels the same way. So I think it's a real plus. There were some things that you probably saw in the report regarding elections, a slight alteration of how your structure is in the Auditor Treasurer's Office pertaining to elections. Right now, there are people involved in elections reporting to different people within the Auditor Treasurer's Office, and my feeling is that can be streamlined. And you saw that Addendum D puts forward what that could look like. I am recommending a permanent full-time equivalent position for elections, as well as partnering with a temporary agency. The county has done very well with trying to bring in people who have some elections expertise to assist her in the elections process, because you need a small army of temporary people. The thought here is, though, that to try and partner with an organization that has expertise in providing temporary people for specific tasks. And I think there's some opportunity there to work with a temp agency or agencies, whatever makes sense for you. I think that's something that can be done. More online training for judges. This gets very complicated because some of the things you almost have to do in person, but that is incredibly time consuming for your staff, and they're running all over doing that. And kind of seizing the opportunity for some more online options, I think, would be helpful. One of the things that you ran into at the last election when we were here was you have an office in Melrose, and you weren't able to utilize existing staff at that office because of some difficulties with interpretation of human service law. And I think there's an opportunity there to try and figure out if there's a way to get past that, because you do have some people there. I'm not saying they're not busy, they're not working hard, but having to staff that office, with additional staff to the extent that you did last time around was difficult. And so I think that's just something that legally is going to need to be worked through. There's some, I think, differences of opinions about what's legally permissible for that particular area. So that's the elections. There's other recommendations, other things as well. But I'll move on to license center recommendations. And,
Excuse me, can we go back to the other one?
Yep. Yes.
As far as number 7, there's staggering start times, staff during elections. Just working the elections locally in Sartell, that really seems to be an issue as far as you've got the early morning voters and you've got the after work voters. But is that something we can deal with? Do we have the ability, Dave, I see you're here, the ability to do that, as well as the primary? And I was told in Sartell that, as far as the precincts and about having them open in the primary, we need to have the same staff that we have in the general election. But the turnout at the primary is oftentimes so few, 10%, if that. And so do we have that within our parameters as far as having the staffing change during the election? Is that possible to do that?
That's a great question. So what I was referring here to was not election days, not the day of the election, but the leading up to elections, because there's absentee.
Absolutely, the preparation, absolutely.
Right. So having people that are working, some that are coming in earlier and some that are staying later increases, you're not having to use overtime and such. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, but I think that's possible. That recommendation wasn't referring to election day per se.
All right, but I totally agree. We need the flexibility because it's crunch time, in the area time around the election, and also with the absentee voters too. We're seeing more and more of that. So to have flexibility, I'm very much in support of that. I just want to hope that we can do that by statute, and if there's anything we can do as a county board to change that, I'd like to see us be able to do that. Okay.
Yeah, the absentee thing was a question that I had too, so I realized that, your crystal ball, like ours, is only 110 volts. It'd be nice if we had the 220 volt model available. But clearly absentee balloting is going to change this. And I don't know, is there experience from other places that would be of use to us to know or anticipate what those would be? But maybe that's farther down the line in the report, but it might merit additional consideration. But boy, the stress on election judges, while on one hand you go in to vote and it looks like a fairly passive activity, there is some detail to it. I remember an election judge who happened to be the spouse of one of my esteemed colleagues, and the bottom line was the individual didn't report for training. We're going to do it the same way we've always done it. And sure as heck, there was a recount in that area the next cycle.
Okay. All right, so moving on to license centers then. One of the things we mentioned in the report was just, again, it's a phenomenal example of a quality government service that you have with your license center operations. Technology has been a blessing and a curse in this, and now we've seen, actually since I wrote the report, the state has thrown out the MNLAR or will be, throwing out the MNLAR system, which has caused a lot of problems for your staff internally, and still will for the next foreseeable future. And even after they implement a new system, that's not going to go without some concerns as well. So I do think that that's going to be an ongoing process for you. Item number 4 talks about adding 2 staff people. Those were already in your 2019 budget. And as I was doing this study, it was very clear that those staff were needed. And it's my understanding they're already in process. Maybe they've already been hired, but they're certainly in process to be hired, which I fully support and feel that's necessary. The phone system that you have in place, there's 2 things that I pointed out about the phone system. One is that right now calls are going to the treasurer's office. So if you look up the number to call License Center, you're not calling a license center, you're going to the treasurer's office, who can answer some of the questions, but not all. And then if they're not able to answer the questions, they then move it on to the license center staff, which was done to free up license center staff from not having to answer the phone all the time. So I think the system has worked okay. I do think with additional staff in a license center, I'd recommend that they answer their calls, because I think they're the best ones to be able to handle the public questions that are coming their way. And then the ability to train. You've got 2 sites, and I think the phone system doesn't always work. I mean, it should be able to work seamlessly so that 2 sites function as one from a calling standpoint, but there are problems with that. And as I recall, I think phone system is something is that on a county to-do list. So, I think that's something that's in process to be resolved. One of the things that I'm also recommending here is at the West Service Center, with your expansion there and moving some auditor treasurer staff out there, or auditor treasurer staff out there, is to move the passport service from the license center to the auditor treasurer's office there. There's certain things that people working on passports cannot do with the license side and vice versa. So it's not like having that co-located at the license center is a significant organizational benefit. And it does clog up things at that location somewhat too, especially where the cameras are. So that's something that I'm recommending that you do with that. And then I think the website enhancements is just to try and find a way. I mean, some people advocated for like the license centers to have their own website, just have it separate website. I'm not sure that makes sense, but I do think that a lot of traffic, and you could ask your web people to tell you what the traffic flow is on your website for license stuff, but I think it should be easier for people to get to the right location with license type inquiries. So that's, and I noticed on the website recently, it's a little more obvious to me where, here's how you can get to the license center information, because there are transactions now you can do online. And if people can accomplish that, that's a good thing. I put number 7 is just a best practices using SharePoint. The workarounds needed, literally every day your staff are finding like ways to work around this MNLAR system. And it's not like the problems are being solved, but it's just like, well, we found this way to make this particular transaction work. And I'm just suggesting until that system goes away, having some central repository of that, so that if another staff is looking at the same issue, they're going to be able to pull up something on SharePoint and be able to say, here's the solution that someone else found to that. And then along the same line is expansion of the lead worker system that's currently in place there. I think that can be beefed up so that the lead worker staff can be programmatic experts for all the staff in those various areas, because your supervisors are spread very thin, and a reliance more on lead workers, I think, will be helpful organizationally. It's already in place, but I think it can be enhanced.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just looking at the request for those 2 additional staff and putting those folks on, just with the automation and online availability of getting license fees being paid and things like that, would we not expect it to see actually a less of a need for staff? So my question is, where are we seeing the need, requirement to have more staff available? So I don't know if somebody has that answer for us.
Maybe yours. I mean, part of the problem is the MNLAR system has been catastrophic for staff. So, maybe several years down the road, you might see technology easing the need for staff or reducing the need for staff, but you're not there yet.
Right.
I think that the 2 big areas, Joe, is certainly with the MNLAR system is not functioning properly, but also where in the past we only did part of the transaction and the state completed it. Now we're doing the whole transaction, so it takes more time. So even with the new system, I think it's going to take longer than it did pre-MNLARs, but we'll see. The other part is driver's license. Now to do the real ID and the enhanced ID that we do, it's like doing a passport, which is very time consuming.
Okay.
So that takes a lot of time to do now, where in the past that was relatively quick transactions. So.
Yeah. But as the generation changes from people like me that pay by check or by cash and actually go to the cashier, that's not happening with the younger generation. And they can do it on their phone. They just as soon do it on their phone while they're unfortunately, even at a stoplight. So, yeah, and so, the technology is getting ahead of, and I was just thinking that we should be able to maybe see a reduction in staff, but, I appreciate the input, so, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So moving on to Treasurer's Office, not much to say there other than it works very well. The front counter, I think, is one area where, You know, there may be some possibilities for making modifications to who is providing how many people are at the front counter at all times, but that's really tough because of doing passports, and, I mean, there's just a lot going on there, so it may or may not be realistic. I do think that looking at some lean process improvement, and you saw that throughout this report as well, is looking at areas where transactions, and some of these transactions are multi-departmental too, so it's not just a I mean, the treasurer's office is like the hub, but there's all kinds of spokes that go off of that for transactions within the county, and there are some opportunities, I think, there for improving that. One thing that I would add, and I also mentioned already about moving passports at the West Service Center when you're done with that remodel and fully move people over there. I think that can be a plus organizationally for you. The other thing that I would say is, as you look at changes to this downtown facility, you know, right now there's not good flow from one office to another. I mean, if you're in the auditor's office, you go out in the hallway and go to the next office, out in the hallway, go to the next office. I mean, that's not really how, you know, facilities are designed today. So I would just be mindful of more ability to move people around easier from one office to another as they move forward, as you move forward with this facility. That's going to be resolved at the West Center. I mean, you've got a very modern structure there, I think, set up. So moving on to Recorder's Office, I mean, this was obviously a significant item, is what should you do for Recorder's offices or the Recorder's Office? I mean, there's all kinds of different ways. We looked at 4 specific options and came up with a fairly dramatic suggested change for how that structure and to create a whole new property and environment department. Now, I think this is what Mike was getting at earlier when he said the transition might be slow. I mean, some of this you could do today if you wanted, but you still have a long transition. But there are things like, for example, with the property tax inclusion in this, with an elected auditor treasurer, I mean, that's still under your elected auditor treasurer's responsibility. So it isn't like you could move that away from the elected position. But as you move forward as a county, maybe that's something you and the auditor, you know, consider going to an appointed position or whatever that plan is. But not all of this can be done immediately. And what, you know, I saw in your cover letter here that having your administrator come up with a sequencing a plan to implement makes a lot of sense to me. This is a dramatic change, though, and this is going to, I mean, this is going to cause a little heartbeat or a little heart burn for some employees because it does, you know, really kind of throw everything up in the air and start from scratch. However, my role when I look at situations like this is what's the best customer service, and this is it, in my opinion. I mean, to go at this not in a partial way, but in a very holistic way, I think is the way to go. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be simple or easy or not take time, but if you look long-term, I mean, there are counties, similar-sized counties that look very similar to this, and I think have successfully done that. But again, it's not an overnight transition. So, should I keep going? All right. The other recorder's recommendations is to expand e-recording, and I know that's already happening, and it has intensified, but, you know, as fast as that can get, you know, implemented, the better, because that's going to streamline services. That's going to ultimately be a real asset, I think, both for your customers as well as your staff. But it, like everything, it does take some time, but I'm glad to hear that that's intensified recently. I think that there is in that particular department, I felt like there could be better teamwork amongst everyone involved. And I think if you look at a comprehensive change to the structure, that's going to resolve that as well. But if you don't go in that, you know, major direction, I would look at what staff are doing, what functions, and how that can be streamlined so that you've got the right expertise available and it doesn't involve, 3 people weighing in on a question, but one person being able to answer questions that come in. So I think that if you're going to leave this department as a standalone, which I do not recommend, but there would be some changes there that I would suggest that you make. And one is I don't think that there's a lot of management layers in that department now. If you count the vacant recorder position, that, in my estimation, is not needed. There's too much management in that, too much administrative oversight in that department, or not oversight, too much administration there, that I think that position can be left vacant permanently. So, moving on then. So lastly, I would just say, I mean, again, I was very, very impressed with this organization, with the leadership here. You've got solid people at every level of the organization. When you ask someone like me to come in, however, you're going to find some things that I perceive to be problematic. Some of those you will debate whether or not my perspective is the right one. However, that's for you to ultimately decide. Feel like the services are high quality. For the most part, there's really good relationships within the county. People care. I mean, every person that I talked with, I mean, they care. They care about their job. They care about doing good work for the people of Stearns County. I mean, that is not the case everywhere I go as well. But there are opportunities, and I feel like the restructuring of that land area is something to give very, very serious consideration to. Process improvements, I mean, that's for every department, everywhere, every county. Well, how can we make things more efficient? How can we streamline some of these business processes? And then strategic technology enhancements, I've talked about that already, some opportunities there for you. So with that said, I'll stop.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I just make a couple follow-up comments? Thanks, Gary. And two kind of major things that were noticed by Gary was that we need a update to the website and the deficiency in our phone system. It's a validation because we're going down both those paths this year. Our IS department is in the middle of creating a request for proposals to upgrade our website, a total rework of the website, with special attention to kind of some of the business functions that we have, such as the license center. And we're in the same time frame with with a new phone system too. So, and my other comment is about the structure, and I agree with the recommendations on the structure. If you want, can you flip that back?
I can.
Just so it hasn't. It's on page 323 of your packet too, but.
This one?
Just as it talks about implementing this and noting that, the one division there could not be moved unless the auditor treasurer was appointed. But I also see that the property and environment department director, their position, which would be a department director, so it would be on this, if you look at the total county structure, be on the same line as the county engineer and the auditor treasurer and other department directors. Just another example of how I think this would be implemented is that we would not fill that position anytime soon. I think we would work into this structure as best we can with the people we have today, and kind of grow into that structure there. So, just a couple of comments, and I'll answer, and I'm sure Gary will answer any questions you have too.
Commissioners? Lee?
The reason that the historical structure existed with the elected auditor, elected treasurer, elected recorder was so that there was some overlap between the departments to offer a degree of, I don't know what you call it, security, or a way that the departments to a limited degree could check on each other. That was back before the day of now it's a multiple audits of our various systems by state agencies. And it took us a long time to appreciate that what we really had now is between the audits and the old structure was we had a significant redundancy. And to the extent that it really created inefficiencies. In addition, other things have changed outside of the county function. Specifically, while the recorder's office took great pains to keep their records accurate, what's happened in over time is the growth of things like title insurance, and so as a result, we have multiple audits, multiple safeguards, and while it's terrific that we have this emphasis on accuracy, it's to the point where the horse is beyond dead. I mean, the horse has been rotting for some time, and we've wasted steps in there. So this what's being proposed, whether you have any opinions on alternate structures or not, it certainly is time. And you're ruthlessly polite in your report to ignore that not all departments have similar cultures. There's a culture in the recorder's office and as they relate to other departments that borders on paranoia. The red file system, gosh, what's the motivation besides fear to do a good job? So I'm really disappointed with that. But the balance of your report makes some sense. I don't know that you fully take advantage of some of these outside influences that could be made, but this is long overdue to start making changes in this function. And the three-stop shop is really an antiquated system. So if we can at least reduce it to a two-stop shop for any transfer, or even a one-stop shop, hope springs eternal. But between that on the real estate side and the absentee vote, the future impact of absentee balloting, well, we just don't know how that's going to shake out, but it sure is dominating the national dialogue. So to the extent that we can do something locally to make sure at least our end of this is on top of the game is certainly important. But yeah, I've been waiting for you for a while, so glad you could finally make it. And I don't know that I agree with all of this, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. I've observed that land office in other counties, and it does work. I'll say that.
Okay. Other commissioners? Just let me comment, Mike. As far as the recorder's office, I appreciate their attention to detail and to do things right. I mean, if you look at my garage, I would not do well as being a county recorder. And so that I appreciate people that want to be on top of things and making sure that those things happen, because like you say, we would have less need for, title insurance and also paperwork, looking back at documents that, who knows where they were created, if they were written on a bar napkin or whatever. But we want to make sure that those things are done right and are correct. And so I want to make sure too that we have a person that has authority and is overseeing that department and seeing that things are done correctly.
All right, Mr. Chair, just one other quick item. If we do begin moving towards this recommended structure, Gary just made a quick note of it in his report. There's a couple other things that I would suggest to add to our finance area or to the auditor treasurer area too. And I don't think we need any action on that, but I would bring that back in the future. That would, I think there's a couple of other divisions, risk management and purchasing, for example, that fit well more in the finance area than being independent departments too. So.
Okay. And don't fear getting things somewhat less than ideal. This is a project that's in motion, and I'm thinking that as we go forward, we'll come up with hopefully minor alterations to do things that we might have overlooked. So this is a project in motion.
I agree. As far as painting the picture, the paint is not all dried. We're going to be continuing painting and try to make it look the best we can for our consumers.
Were you an English teacher? You're coming up with these alliterations that are remarkable. You all wrong.
Oh. So, Mike, my question is, where are we going with this? What action would you like to see? Where do we move today?
I think if we had a motion just to approve, that we're going to move towards this structure in the future, then I will go about creating the implementation plan.
Okay, and I like that. Also, as far as employees and staff, I want to again appreciate the reviews that we had about the job that they do. I'd like to again applaud staff for the things they do. There's going to be some growing pains here and some anxiety, but by all means, we appreciate their input, and we want to see this thing be the best portrait we can paint.
So, Joe, all we're doing today is accepting his report.
Right.
We're not authorizing changes per
Right.
se. Okay, I move we accept the report.
Well,
No, Mr. Chair, we're approving the recommendations. We're accepting and approving, knowing that some details may change over time.
Okay, we can
And
do that.
And that Dr. Williams will be bringing back the implementation.
how we're going to implement, yeah.
Okay.
So that would be a modification, if you're okay with that.
I can live with that.
Okay, we have the modification.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to accept this report and to move forward with the changes by staff and according to our administration and things to be come back to us as they need to. Okay? Any more discussion on this? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion passes, and we appreciate the work and staff. We look forward to making these changes, and hopefully, we'll move forward in a positive sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item we have is issues by commissioner. First of all, I'll start on this end. Randy, do you have something?
I do not, no.
Okay, Steve?
Nothing besides, I would guess you're going to bring up breakfast on the farm.
I have breakfast on the farm, so we go ahead and say something about it if you'd like, Steve.
Okay, breakfast on the farm, June 1st at the Gregory Farm. The buses will transport from Rocori High School, and it's from 7:30 to 12:30, and they'll have a breakfast.
Breakfast $5 and be able to see a whole bunch of things happening on the farm. And maybe some commissioners in a pen or two.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Wait, I didn't mean to
breakfast
nod
on-
my head. I don't know what you're thinking.
Breakfast on the farm is a moving experience.
Yes.
Do you have anything else? No. Commissioner Lenz?
I hope not.
Wow.
All right. Okay. Commissioner Mergen, can you top that moving experience?
I cannot.
Okay. Commissioner Clark?
I'll just make sure to share that with our little granddaughter, so
Yeah.
she can come
Oh,
and have a
absolutely.
moving experience.
Yeah.
Municipal League tonight?
Municipal
Yes.
League tonight, okay, yeah, folks, we have that going on. I just have a couple things. The breakfast on the farm, obviously a highlight. Also, we have Memorial Day this weekend, so, as far as people getting out and to honor those veterans that played that ultimate sacrifice, we do respect them and would like to see, the public out there because, with this, they help us build this great nation and account for us being here today. And then also the comp plan. We had issues today on the comp plan that are very important as far as growth and development, and we would like to see, again, continued input on that because it's important that people know that they are part of shaping our county in the future. So, Commissioner Notch, you have something?
Yeah, just one other quick thing. We have another broadband meeting this Thursday morning. And we're slowly wrapping that up, so hopefully in June, the facilitator will come to the board with a review of what we've been working on the past
Yeah.
5-6 months.
We actually have a draft final report in our hands.
Oh, that's right. Yep, it's in the
But
Dropbox.
we're scheduling our consultant to come before the board.
Good, okay. Randy?
Just one item, the tax forfeiture auction is next Wednesday at 6:30 at the Service Center. So-
Okay, tax
And there's a lot of
forfeiture auction,
information
yep.
online. so.
Okay. Anything else? Now to look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Commissioner Mergen?
Second.
Commissioner Hodge, otherwise we're here till lunch. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes, we're done.